So if anyone is uncomfortable about being recorded with this meeting, it'll be a good idea for you not to speak, or you might want to leave, but that's never happened. So there's a sign-up sheet going around. I'm going to pass things around. If you're interested in joining the council, it's free. You can fill that out. That's yours, right?
All right, Diane, I think we have a quorum.
Very good. Let's begin the meeting. The meeting is being recorded. And if I'm going to, maybe I can change the meeting to not require any more waiting room.
Or I can keep an eye on it as well.
Yeah, or if you could figure it out how to stop that. I don't think we'll be able to change that now. Yeah, okay. Okay, everybody, here we are. Welcome. It's wonderful to have so many people coming to a community council meeting and so early on in the meeting. It's very, very nice. So we have a brief technical overview for people who are on Zoom and meeting attendees. So please stay muted unless you're speaking. You can sign on with your phone or your computer, but not both. If you do both, it causes problems with Zoom. The democratic rules of order is how we do our meetings. And if someone would kindly put in the chat the website for the Democratic Rules of Order, I would very much appreciate that. It's www.democraticrules.com. If people are calling in on a phone, you'll need to unmute yourselves with a *6 and then let us know you wish to speak. When you want to speak in this meeting, the best way to do it is when you're on Zoom, if you go down to the bottom and you can see this little happy face, or depending on your computer, it says reactions. If you click on that, you'll get some options. And the option, if you wish to speak, is to raise your hand. When you do that, your picture goes up to the very top so that I can see it. And otherwise, if you just raise your hand in the camera, there's so many people here, I won't be able to see it. So please use the raise your hand in the reactions to like this that I just did for myself. And then you can lower your hand after you have spoken, and that will work very well. If you are calling on a phone, you'll just have to speak up because you won't be able to do that. If you're in the room, then I'll be able to turn around and see everybody. And you can raise your hand like this when you want to speak. Okay, this is all new. We're just new at this whole hybrid meeting thing. So please be patient. Okay, and if you have signed on to Zoom with anything other than your first and last name, please change it if you can, or put a chat in the chat, put your real name in and what your Zoom name is, so that in our minutes we can be sure that we know who actually attended the meeting. And then one more thing I'd like to mention on the chat, if you click on the chat and it's up there, down at the bottom, there are 3 little dots and you can save the chat. So there's all these interesting things that happen and links that happen in the chat. That's how you save the chat so that it goes to your computer. And there we go.
They can maybe let Ben know in the chat.
Excuse, I didn't hear that.
They can maybe let Ben know in the chat that it's their name or they just put up there. But if there's me and I don't know.
You're not on the chat, are you?
So,
Oh, I see. I'm so sorry. Yes. So you can let Ben Carr know or me know what your name is if it's different than in your Zoom than what your real name is. Thank you. Thanks for that, Debbie. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So next we're going to review the agenda for tonight. This has been sent out to pretty much everybody who should be here, I think. So I was wondering if anyone would like to see propose any changes to our agenda for this evening or any additions. Okay, very good. I will accept the agenda as it was sent out to everybody and we'll follow it tonight. Now it's time to approve the minutes of the last meeting, and those are also sent out to our mailing list and all our members. So, and you have a copy printed of them out, Debbie, right?
this is actually busy as well.
Okay. I have them in my computer. Are there any corrections to be made to the minutes from the November meeting? Okay, thank you. I will accept those as a permanent record of our November meeting, and those will go on the website for people who would like to see what we've talked about and done at previous meetings. So this evening, let's see if we have, I want to just double check if we have Captain Heather Volpe. Is she with us this evening? There's so many people here, it's hard to check. Of the Sheriff's Office. Let's see, I'm not seeing her. Okay.
I let her in just a moment ago, so she may have dropped off.
Okay. Okay, and so the first item on the agenda is Captain Heather Volpe of the King County Sheriff's Office. So Captain Volpe, if you are with us this evening, could you please make yourself known and we can welcome you. So I guess we'll have to, Ben, if you could watch for her and see if she returns.
I'll keep an eye out. She's not currently among the attendees.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we'll move on until she does show up. We have committee and board updates. And the first committee is the Affordable Housing Committee. Affordable housing is a critically important issue for our island. Oops, I lost the video again. Let's see if we can do this. And I'm having technical issues on this side, folks. I'm losing the video and I have to re-up it every once in a while.
Just don't throw the sea
Diane, for those of us online, we can see you from the overhead camera.
So you can see, but yeah, I'm hoping everybody here, they can't see all of you wonderful folks at home without me doing the screen up on the wall. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And that's what left us here briefly. Okay. So Morgan, are you with us this evening? Morgan, is Morgan Brown in our meeting?
Not unless they've signed in under another name.
No, he wouldn't have. Okay. Kevin Jones, Equity, Social Justice and Inclusion Committee. Are you with us tonight, Kevin?
Yes, I am, Diane.
Wonderful. Would you like to give us an update, please?
I would. Thanks for that opportunity. The Equity, Social Justice, Inclusion Committee is working on two initiatives right at the moment. One is the land acknowledgement statement, which the board has and the council have given the go-ahead to consider a land acknowledgement statement. And so the committee members have now hosted 3 public meetings soliciting input from members of the community regarding the statement. And they are planning a January in-person meeting to basically discuss the statement that has been developed based on the feedback received. There is a draft statement that is now being circulated amongst some of the coordinators. So that team is making great progress. So thank you, Jessica and James, for your contributions there. We are also continuing to develop our plans for outreach to the community, as our mission statement says, to have meaningful conversations with members of our community to understand equity, social justice, and inclusion barriers, and then to see if the council can be an effective change agent to help improve people's lives on Vashon-Maury Island. So that outreach initiative, the questions that we plan to ask, we're walking through those in detail, doing some role playing to see how that works as we do our outreach. And it looks like the vast majority of committee members are saying that they are ready to start doing the outreach and contacting folks. So there's a couple of things I will ask. If you are interested in participating in the work of the committee, you can put that information into chat. Into chat, you would say something like, I'd like to be involved in the equity committee. Here's my contact information. You can chat that privately to me if you would like. And if you would like to contribute to our outreach, if you would like to be somebody that we talk to in the community about equity, inclusion, or social justice, please also let me know that you'd like to talk with us, and we'll make sure that we reach out to you. The next meeting is next week on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We meet the first and third Wednesdays of the month. So if somebody would like to join those meetings, definitely let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
There's no questions on this side here, Kevin.
I don't see any in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. So, okay, thanks for the opportunity to give you that update, Diane.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, next we have, is Captain Volpe arrived yet, Ben?
I'm scrolling through, but I do not see her back online yet. There are 1 or 2 people who may be calling in. If you're calling in and you haven't otherwise identified yourself, would you mind unmuting for a moment and identifying yourself?
Unmuting is *6.
But in any event, I do not otherwise see her.
Okay, that's fine. Next, we have the Ferry Advisory Committee candidates and vote for Washington State Ferries. And so let me pull up the information on our okay. Okay. So we're going to we have an opening on the Ferry Advisory Committee. Is Justin Hirsch with us this evening? Justin, is he here? No, on the Zoom?
Not under that name.
Okay, she's not here. Okay. So we have the Ferry Advisory Committee is a committee that works with Washington State Ferries and represents Vashon at that level of the state. And the Community Council is the organization that fills the positions on the 3-person committee. And we have an opening right now for a person on the committee. And we have 3 candidates who would like to be considered for this position on the committee. And we're going to have each of them introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves and why they wish to be on the committee. And then we're going to vote. The members will vote, and then we will be selecting that person for this committee. So I would like to start with Dustin Coe, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little about your interest in the committee. And is Dustin here this evening?
I don't see anyone under that name.
Okay, I will read his information. Okay. So Dustin uses the ferry service for work and to reach services. He typically uses the ferry 3 times a week. And here's what he says about why he feels qualified for this appointment. I feel as though I would be a strong team member because I have lived on both Vashon and Whidbey Island. I have also worked for the ferries back in the 90s, and I currently commute off of the island on a regular basis. So I not only have experience as a customer of the ferry system, I bring a unique perspective to the team. Okay. And that would be that. Let's go back to Zoom. So that's Dustin. Doesn't know why someone that can't make it or can't get on Zoom or whatever for the meeting. So he has his application in. He's also signed up to be a board member of the Community Council, so he's doing that as well. Next, we have Jar Lyons. Jar, are you with us this evening?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Would you like me to go through an introduction?
Yes, please, if you would.
Okay, I've lived on Vashon for about 10 years and commuted regularly all of those years. I've been personally invested in trying to improve the ferries outside of the FAC, interacting with the FAC from time to time. And I was helpful in the study that Professor Eicher put forward back in 2018 when the most recent schedule change was put into effect. So he and I worked kind of hand in hand in developing improvements for the ferry system and specifically for this route. My background is I'm a software engineer. I work for a marine terminal management company here in Seattle. They manage all the terminals in Elliott Bay. And I work in the software arm of that company. My job specifically is to keep trucks moving, ironically, through gates very similar to what we have at the Fauntleroy choke point on the dock. So my job is to automate as much as possible and keep those trucks moving, keep all of the equipment being utilized to its fullest capacity. So I think I bring a useful perspective. I've had to take the ferry myself, as I said, and maybe most importantly, I'm really angry about the situation. So my goal would, if I get voted on the committee, would be to become have the Vashon fact become a thorn in the side for Washington State ferries until we can get some improved service.
Okay, thank you very much, Jar. I really appreciate that.
Diane, Justin did just sign on.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I have that. I don't have that statement. No, he's just speaking. I have their forms that they filled out.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Okay, all right. And you'll have the recording if you need to check on anything. Right, so we have a third candidate, Wendy Amon. Wendy's here this evening, so yeah, come on up so people can hear you. And because you'll want to speak, so I just have a
yeah. Kind of weird. I feel bad to have my back to you.
I know it's very strange, but
well, I actually wrote something out. So, well, I'm Wendy Amon, and my husband and I raised our kids in West Seattle and in up on Cougar Mountain, and so we spent a lot of time on Vashon. But after a brief period of time in New Mexico and Santa Cruz, you know, our desire to come back to the Northwest loomed pretty large to us. And as we looked at other places that defined the things we wanted in the community, Vashon became a clear choice. So about 4 years ago, we moved here. I've been I was a self-employed person in the educational publishing field. I traveled about Western Washington for close to 30 years, and the ferries were one of my frequent means of travel. Today, as a retired Vashon resident, my ferry usage averages 1 to 2 trips per week. But so I have a historical perspective of experiencing a ferry system that was actually adequately run and was dependable. And I feel that, you know, I'd like to see us return to a level that's responsive to the community needs. What I feel I offer in this role is basically about 30 years of honed skills as a community activist and advocate. And these skills include things such as customer research, interpretation of technical materials, and organization for community action. As in publishing, I did a variety of roles. And one of the things I did was help roll out ebook and database for educational publishers throughout the nation. And which was an interesting part of history and working to develop that. But just in terms of my examples of the skill sets that I'm talking about, early on, I worked with a group in Bellevue City Council, with Bellevue City's Council to slow down the zoning density increase and sorry, I'm just reading this and I'm trying to talk and read at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was trying to organize a group of people to effectively lobby Bellevue City Council to address the infrastructure needs before the increased density in our area. And we were able to have them delay that at that time. As a parent in the Issaquah School District, I partnered with other parents to lobby the school board to develop a long-term view towards the costs of burgeoning development and develop impact fees in order to subsidize the cost of that development. And we were able to get that done. As an appointed board member, a member of the King County Transit Sounding Board, our group dramatically redesigned bus routes on the east side and to address the transit needs and more efficiently address connections between employment centers, retail, education, and population centers. As a library board chair in Placitas, New Mexico, I functioned as a conduit between our community, the state and local governments, and to facilitate the building of a community library in a very small part in between Santa Fe and Albuquerque. I spent 3 months lobbying the governor's office to release funds for the final phase of our construction. It was being withheld due to some financial concerns. The governor had agreed that they needed to be released. It took me 3 months of doggedly pursuing it, but we got them released. It was the only money that was released that year out of those funds. So, and then also by living in Santa Cruz, California, I spent 5 years as a board member on a homeless services program. Our board sought to understand the root causes of a complex problem and use and really turning our energy towards the basic fundamental causes. And we effectively developed subsidized supportive housing for a large number of people, and it continues on as one of the stellar programs in dealing with housing and affordable housing for the homeless community. Anyway, okay, that's kind of a glimpse. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Okay, I'm going to do the camera again so you see more of the whole group. Go.
Diane, just as a reminder, I think Justin Hirsch is here if you wanted to hear from him.
Not yet. We'll have to come back because we're going to be doing this vote while the memories are fresh in people's minds, but we will come back to that. And, oh, excuse me. So Justin, so would you like to say anything about the Ferry Advisory Committee? We're going to be taking a vote now on the 3 candidates that have submitted their applications. And you're muted, Justin.
Yes, I'm actually in the moment of driving onto the ferry just now.
Very appropriate.
Yes. Possibly slightly illegal, but you know, I guess if I get a ticket, I'll pay it.
We won't tell anyone.
Okay, so the Ferry Advisory Committee is a 3-member, all-volunteer committee of residents, local to each individual ferry-served community. Okay, parked without hitting anybody. There we go. The statutory obligation is to be a reflection of that community's thoughts and feelings back to the legislature, and functionally that means you know, we talk to ferries. I'm not sure that we have you know, maybe a louder megaphone than the larger community, but we do tend to have a better understanding of what's going on. We have pretty ready access to documents, and we talk to ferry officials on a somewhat regular basis such that we can get details on things. And later on in the meeting, I do have a few brief things to report that I think Islanders will find interesting.
Okay.
So, yeah. And politically, I'm not affiliated at this point.
Okay, so everybody, Justin is the chair of the committee. He's the head of this committee. So Justin, thank you very much for adding that. Is there anything else you'd like to offer or say, or shall we go on with the vote?
Let's go on with the vote, and then I'll have a little report later.
Okay, very good. Okay. Okay, so here we have on Zoom, we have, so this is, I've never done this before, so we have both a Zoom poll, and this is where I'm going to need your help, Debbie, recording this vote. So we have a Zoom poll, and the way we're setting this up is you can vote for all 3 of the candidates if you wish, 2 of the candidates, or 1 of the candidates. And then whoever gets the most votes is going to be our additional representative on the committee. So I'm going to launch the poll.
And the names in the screen are not the order in which they were presented. Is that right?
The names are in the order in which they talk. Dustin Cole. I read Dustin's.
Okay.
And then Jar spoke next.
Okay. Great.
And then Wendy spoke last.
So there's 1 total position.
There's 1 position open, and you can vote. These you can see what's happening with on the screen with the folks on the Zoom meeting. And so we can be. This is where I'm going to need your help. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to count. You're going to count. You can use this. We're going to mention a name, and then people will raise their hands for that name. Write down the number of people who voted for that person. right, and then you will, and then we're going to name a second name. So first will be Dustin Cole, COE. The next will be Jar, Jar, Lyons. And the third will be Wendy, AMAN. Okay.
And it's members only.
And it's members only. So those of you who are members, even the person who signed up tonight. So are like to see Dustin Cole on the committee. That's a zero. Charlie Lyons, how many people? One. Okay. And how many for Wendy? Two. Okay. So Wendy's clearly the winner here in the live group, and she's also the winner of the Zoom. So we've got a winner. Wendy, congratulations. You are now on the Ferry Advisory Committee. Yes. And I'm going to end the poll now. Thank you very much. That went pretty smoothly. Share the results. But you could have seen the results anyway, right? The people at home, could you see those results as they were coming in on Zoom?
No, I think it was just you and me, Diane.
Oh, okay. All right. So they're being shared with you now, and I'll just let you know, I'll just read it to you for the people who might be here on the phone. On the Zoom call, Dustin got 9 votes, Jar Lyons got 16 votes, and Wendy Amon got 18 votes of the folks on Zoom. And here in the at the Land Trust building, Dustin got 0 votes, Jar Lyons got 5 votes, and Wendy got 10. So Wendy is the clear winner in person and on Zoom. And there we go. Is that my clipboard? Yeah. Okay. You can have the numbers. I will take this. So stop sharing. Okay.
Georgia should have been solution.
There. So Justin, are you available to speak again and give a little update?
Sure. Yeah. Is this a good time for that?
Yes, it's fine. Not too long, but yes, go right ahead.
Wow. Get my notes out. There we are. Okay. So spoke with ferry officials earlier today. They're looking at public meetings Wednesday, January 11th at noon and Thursday, January 12th at 6 p.m. Those are going to be general to the entire system. So those are system-wide meetings. They will be held online via Zoom. Obviously, service restoration is going to be the #1 topic there. There also may be some discussion about a fuel surcharge. So I don't entirely know what that looks like yet, but the meetings should both cover the same topics. Wednesday, January 11th at noon, Thursday, January 12th, 6 p.m. Moving on, obviously one of the major impediments to service restoration has been crew availability. Anybody who tried to get off the south end of the island yesterday morning definitely felt that personal impact. The good news is that the program that WSF has created to advance their workers, their maritime workers, from being an unlicensed decky, deck workers, up to being a licensed deck officer, is starting to get some progress. They had funding for 12 individuals in what they're calling the AB to MATE program. Those individuals have now graduated. They've got their licenses, and they're now going to start the process of working towards the pilotage certificate that's required to enable them to be a licensed deck officer on actually serving on the ferry. That pilotage certificate, of course, has a 500-day sea service requirement. That's not a WSF requirement, that's the Coast Guard. And those requirements are very, very strict and don't bend for anybody ever. So the short story there is that it's still going to be a long time. They're estimating that they need 107, that's 107 licensed deck officers, or I should say up to 107, to maintain restored service. So that would include 3-boat service on the Triangle route. That number is based on the number of potential retirees over the next 5 years. They did have 70 internal applicants for that program. Unfortunately, they only had the funding for 12 of them. So this is definitely a legislative funding issue. They did get funding for an additional 12. They're gonna ask for 36, funding for 36 a year for this governor's budget, which of course is under discussion now. So that's the update on crewing. We do have some bright spots there, but we're not out of the woods yet. The next bit on boats, they retained a consultant called Gloston. That consultant is going to help them evaluate bids from 3 different potential builders in Washington State for the new WSF boats. By law, they have to accept the lowest bid, but this Gloston contractor is able to do some analysis on whether or not the contractor can legitimately, fulfill this contract that they're proposing to the state. Apparently, the assumption of risk is a major feature in shipbuilding. Obviously, we need those boats in order to restore service because we've all felt the impact of not having boats. The next bit on restoring service is that they have basically modified some schedules for some of the licensed deck officers on the Bremerton route that allows them, I guess, to free up some licensed deck officers for other routes. And so that is contributing towards the service restoration. They're still optimistic that in February of 2023, they will be able to attempt, not promise, but attempt restoration of 3-boat service on the Triangle route. So there's a couple other runs that are sort of ahead of us in the ranking as far as service restoration. There is a bi-weekly service restoration report published on the WSF website. And when I get a second here, I can put that link in the chat. So shipbuilding is moving forward. There is a chance that none of the in-state bids will be accepted, and that would allow Washington State to move beyond the build in Washington requirement for those boats. So that has the benefit of potentially allowing federal funding to be used for the boats. It has the drawback of adding probably an additional year to the total construction time to those boats. So hopefully we can find a shipyard in Washington that will commit to building all 5 of these new hybrid electric boats, and then they can finish up the engineering and hopefully get to building them. Those obviously are still quite a number of years out, maybe 2025. The last bit is a little closer to home here, and I think people probably have heard about some of the incidents that I got to talk about, but WSF is going to adopt what they're calling a passenger code of conduct. That's going to be system-wide. I was actually a little bit shocked to find out that they didn't have something like that before. This is largely in response, the whole system is going to adopt this largely in response to 2 incidents that have taken place in or around Vashon. In the first incident, rather high profile, and I know some Islanders will know what we're talking about, there was a passenger driving her motor vehicle onto the south end boat at Point Defiance, was clearly directed into a lane by a ferry worker. That passenger driver chose not to go into that lane and ended up driving over the foot of a ferry worker. Ferry worker was hospitalized. Law enforcement was called. The driver was arrested on suspicion of assault, and you know, obviously the courts will handle that case from there. So that's a pretty serious incident. The next incident, unfortunately, another driver leaving Vashon actually spit from his vehicle onto a WSF terminal worker at the Vashon terminal. Actually hit the Vashon terminal worker with his spit, and then shouted some rather inappropriate things. So this was raised by WSF as obviously the lack of civility among passengers is pretty concerning. They've also raised it as a workplace retention issue. These are pretty serious issues that make people not want to work for WSF. And when people don't want to work for WSF, we end up feeling the experience in, you know, in terms of lost, you know, missed sailings and lack of crew. So we're told that the passenger code of conduct is going to be pretty vague and will be based on some other codes of conduct for other transit methods in Washington State with probably pretty nearly identical language. For the most part, it still has to be enforced by law enforcement. There may be, the code of conduct will give ferry workers the ability to walk up to a passenger who is being unruly, inform them that law enforcement has the right to trespass them from the ferry system for a period of time, 60 days, 90 days, depending on the conduct, and issue that person a standard card that says, hey, by the way, this is the code of conduct and you need to observe this while you're riding the ferries. So I know that's not pleasant stuff, but occasionally we do have to address it. And so WSF is taking steps to address it, both to respect their own workforce and also hopefully to retain workers so that we can have a functional ferry system. With that as a FAC kind of organizational step, let me just say that, you know, I do in the new year want to go back to at least occasionally, maybe bi-monthly, reserving a room in the Vashon Library and being able to do hopefully an in-person meeting or perhaps a, you know, hybrid in-person Zoom meeting that is FAC specific so that people just have ferry stuff where we want to do a deeper dive into an issue that we wouldn't have time for in a community council meeting, that we can do that. WSF has also offered to send occasionally, as they're able to and as the staff are able to travel, has offered to send a representative to be in some of those meetings, assuming that we can work out the scheduling. So that's my intention going forward. I'm really excited that we have our third member. Thank you so much to the Community Council for putting that together, and hopefully we can have a productive ferry advisory committee and move into service restoration. And if there's questions for me and you feel like we have time, Diane, I'm happy to take them.
I did see a question. Scott Harvey, you had a question, please, Scott. You're muted, Scott.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. 2 questions. You mentioned the 107 workers, deckhands they needed. Is that 107 from now, or is this 107 that we need in the system?
That's an estimate of licensed deck officers over the course of the next 5 years based on retirement eligibility. So obviously not everybody who's eligible to retire will retire, we hope, although theoretically they could, but they probably won't. But that's just an estimate for what they'd like to see.
Okay, but they're only going to be hiring 36 a year. So if my math is just a little off here, is you're saying that if everybody is supposed to be retiring here, we won't be fully staffed for 3 more years. Is that the math I have here?
Yeah, it's actually, so that's a proposal that they're requesting funding for 36 a year. And you actually can't just hire them off the street, unfortunately.
Of course.
And that has a lot to do with the Coast Guard requirements. So what they're asking for funding for is what they call the AB to MATE program. So AB is an able-bodied seaman, right? And MATE is the licensed deck officer. The MATE license has a lot of the same sea time requirements that one earns as an able-bodied seaman. So that's a good entry-level step. So rather than rather than trying to start from scratch, they're saying, let's take the people that we have that are already familiar with the boats and basically train them for these higher level jobs. We think that's great. We think it would have been even better 10 years ago, but better to start as soon as possible. And yes, you're right that the math doesn't quite add up. In any event, even if they get funding for all 36 a year, they're still behind the curve. So we're hoping that not everyone who is eligible to retire ultimately retires. That's often the case. And that we're hoping that everybody successfully completes the program and keeps working for WSF.
The other question I had as far as the out-of-state ferries, I mean, the out-of-state, onwards ferries that are being built.
Construction.
The construction here. Even though it takes longer, wouldn't it be better to have the out-of-state ferries working on it here because we'd have more money available, because we can use federal funds in addition to our state funds?
Well, I guess it depends. There's a lot of aspects of a complex project like that, and it depends on what we're saying is better. Certainly having access to federal funding looks better fiscally. There's also some additional requirements that come with that federal funding. And those additional requirements are a big part of the additional year that would add to the process. We have world-class shipyards here in Washington State, and we can build it much quicker here in Washington.
But we don't have as much money. We don't have as much money. So therefore, we're wasting federal money. Why should New York and Alaska get all the money?
So that's a question for the legislators. And I'm just really trying to hope that we can get hybrid electric boats here sometime before I retire and don't have to commute anymore. But, it is not necessarily the case that we need the federal funds. The governor's budget has pledged money for all 5 of those boats.
Why don't we get a 6th boat or a 7th boat? We're leaving money out there. Where the government, we federal taxpayers have paid for these ferries, and we haven't been using it for decades because we've been stuck with build in Washington. So that's what I got. Yeah,
I hear your opinion. I'm a volunteer and I don't work for WSF. I'm
okay.
Committee by virtue of being a commuter, but I'd encourage you to use the WSF outreach feature on their website if you feel strongly about that. And then hopefully we'll be able to make announcements about FAC meetings at upcoming community council meetings. And then if we can swing it, hopefully there'll be a ferries representative there, and we'll have both an update and an opportunity for you to express an opinion in person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question if you have time.
Sure.
Okay. Deborah, go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Sure, thanks. Not so much for Justin, but maybe for the larger group. I'm really sad to hear about the examples of ferry workers being sort of abused by ferry users. And in since we depend so much on those people who are doing this job, I think many of us, like I make a point of really thanking and greeting the ferry workers when I'm coming or going. And I wonder if there's something that the council might do, either an editorial in the Beachcomber or something educationally. I think just to express to the community how important it is for us to be appreciative and treat our ferry workers well, because it's not going to help any of us to be abusive and drive them out, right? But I think just highlighting how important, I mean, we're so dependent on this group of workers, and anything we do, since it's going to take us a while to hire and train more, anything we can do to retain and appreciate the people that we've got, we should try to do, right?
Yes, I was wondering if Wendy might be willing to do that for us.
I can.
Would you? Thank you so much. Wendy is going to do that for us as one of her first jobs. Thanks for bringing that up, Deborah. Okay.
Thank you, Wendy. And if I could, I should probably get Wendy's contact info. Maybe somebody could email it to me, and then we'll reach out. And
you have it?
And,
Wendy has your contact info. We'll be good. Okay.
Oh, great. Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So next. That. Why am I not in this option? So that. Oh, there we go. You, that's what I want. Okay. Okay. Now, on the next item on the agenda, which it's a committee and board updates, and I'm going to take this opportunity to let everyone know that we have some spaces available on the board of directors of the community council. And we have different sectors that we're looking for people who can help with tie into the these different sectors on the island, one of these sectors, and some different skills. And that's what we'll be looking for. The sectors we don't have a board member signed on to work with is affordable housing, culture, meaning art and history, faith, food, the Latino community, LGBTQ, and old time Vashon, basically people who've been, who were born here. We have these sectors so that the board members can stay in touch with those sectors and maybe attend their meetings or be on their newsletter list and make sure that there's a connection that they can bring to the board meetings and the community council meetings from that part of the island. And other sectors are possible, but right now these are the sectors that are the way of some covered. These are the empty ones, and they're in our bylaws. And so we're looking for people to help us with those sectors. We're also looking for the following skills: finance and accounting, website skills, especially the Wix website, mailing list management, especially MailChimp, social media support, especially Facebook, other media support, writing and speaking, committee leadership. I have a list of 30 potential committees where people have brought up issues that need to be addressed on this island, but no one is willing to chair those committees. So we desperately need people. If we're going to get some things done, we need people willing to chair the committees, and then we need people willing to take the minutes of the meetings of those committees so that we don't lose the wisdom and the ideas and everything that come up in the committees. And King County planning expertise as we're moving forward into the next planning phase. Event planning, because we're going to have events as fundraisers to keep this group going. And volunteer recruitment to help get the workers needed to make this all happen, because we're all volunteers. Okay, I just thought I'd mention that. If you're interested and you'd like to know more, you can contact me. My email's on the website. You can send me a message in the chat. You can talk to me tonight or whenever you see me. Okay, So the next item on the agenda, first of all, has Captain Volpe arrived yet? Do we know, Ben?
I'm double checking again. Apologize.
Okay. All right. Then we're on to old business. And one of the old business we have is the progress on the Vashon-Maury Island Community Council dissolution. David, have you heard anything back as to whether that has been completed and finished up?
Diane, I checked back on the Secretary of State website and it didn't indicate that they had received my filing. So I'm going to submit another one.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for checking into that, David. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, next on old business, the passenger ferry resolution. I see Robert Gibbs is with us this evening, we have moved and seconded a resolution to support using King and Kitsap County passenger only boats to supplement the spotty Washington State Ferry midday schedule while we wait for additional Washington State Ferry boats. And we're open for discussion on this. And Robert, would you be able to please put your resolution in the chat so people can see it and I can read it for the people who are here in the building so that we can all be looking at the same thing or at least be hearing it.
All right, I'll have to dig it up here.
That's okay.
The one thing while I'm working at this, I might add, since the meeting when we first discussed this, we found news from Kitsap County that they have been able to obtain $230,000 a month in supplemental money from the state, I guess from the governor's office, to allow them to run the Bremerton passenger ferry through the middle of the day, because their car ferry service, like ours, is thin, particularly through the middle of the day. So they got the jump on Vashon here and got some money from the state to allow them to use their existing passenger boat throughout the middle of the day. That's what we're trying to press for here, that King County try to figure out a way to operate the passenger boats through the middle of the day so that people have a way to get to downtown when they have some meeting that they need to get to or medical appointment. Okay, let me see if I can find this. Maybe while I'm pulling this up, I'm not finding it right off here.
I have it.
Okay.
I'm going to copy it and put it in the chat.
All right, very good. Thank you, Diane.
I didn't think I'd be able to find it that fast, but I did. Okay.
Now, basically, the idea is we don't know when they're really going to get back onto the 3-boat schedule. They're saying they hope it will be in February, but I'd like to move ahead with this alternate way to get some better boat service to the island, just in case, on the off chance that they can't meet their goal. And we don't know. Also, you know, a lot of the problem is not just the crewing, but it's that they don't have enough boats to have much to spare in case there's mechanical problems with the boats. So we're sort of down the page and get the short end of it when they have a boat have to go into service. We end up sending our boats to somebody else. So if we had more passenger boat availability, maybe it would mitigate that for us. Plus, I was sort of surprised when I dug into this a bit and I found that Kitsap County has 3 passenger boat routes that they run: the Southworth, Bremerton, and Port Townsend, or Kingston run rather. And they're running during the week, they're running 52 boats throughout the day. And King County, much smaller fleet, just the 2 boats, we're running about 17 a day, 17 runs a day. That's including the West Seattle run. So Vashon gets about 6 or 7 runs a day. So it also crossed my mind, and maybe King County can negotiate something with Kitsap, because the Southworth boat also only runs through the rush hours, not the middle of the day. So maybe there could be a joint Kitsap King County triangle route for passenger boats from Southworth, Vashon to Colman Dock. So the point is, the middle of the day, both the Kitsap Southworth boat and the Vashon King County boat are sitting idle. When there's a need for better service during the middle of the day. So anyway, the resolution is, Diane, you got it posted in the chat.
Yes. I have the documents posted in the chat. I'm not able to copy and paste into the chat. So I put the document into the chat, and I'm just going to read it now for everybody. And I'm gonna move that over. Okay. This was moved and seconded at the November meeting, and we're going to discuss it and vote on this tonight. Whereas the Washington State ferry service from Vashon is uncertain and often significantly delayed, even on the current reduced schedule, and whereas this unpredictable schedule has substantial impacts on Vashon residents who need to travel to Seattle or Tacoma for medical appointments, requiring cancellations of appointments and penalty charges, and or planning for an hours-long trip for a short medical appointment. And whereas King County and Kitsap Transit both have reliable new passenger ferries traveling to Seattle 6 or 8 times a day, but no boats in midday. And whereas a triangle route from Southworth to Vashon to Colman Dock could be operated with the existing passenger boat fleet without new boats or docks. And whereas it is anticipated that it will take Washington State Ferries another 5 years to build any new ferries to allow it to operate on a reliable or frequent schedule, now therefore the Vashon-Maury Community Council resolves to request that King County Transit work with Kitsap Transit to utilize the existing passenger ferry fleet to provide daily service to Seattle from Vashon and Southworth throughout the day, and to seek supplemental funding for this service from Washington State Ferries or other state entities to provide for this service for so long as Washington State Ferries is unable to provide reliable service throughout the day due to lack of operational boats and crew. So there's the resolution. Now I'm open to discussion or changes or edits or a vote. So we'll have some discussion first. And we'll see. Anyone, please raise your hand. There we go. Kevin, would you?
Yeah, quick question. Thank you, Diane. Just a quick question regarding the Ferry Advisory Committee. I don't know if this is an item that the Ferry Advisory Committee could also become engaged in, or if that is out of scope. Justin, I assume you could help us answer that.
I think it's out of scope, but Justin, please, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Sure. Yeah, I'm home and trying to get logged on the laptop, but
good timing.
Uh-oh, we're losing you, Justin. You're frozen, so if you would turn off your camera, hopefully it's you and not me.
Are we here?
I can hear you, so please continue.
Okay, so Robert and I spoke on the issue. I'm fully in support. I think there's probably some advocacy that the FAC can do with WSF. I think they're probably going to push back and say, look, we have a service restoration plan, and we've carefully planned out all our funding and all that. All that is to say, though, that any kind of pushing that we can do to try and get this thing going in the right direction, all that advocacy, it's all good. I don't see any downside of continuing to advocate for ourselves and better ferry service. I love the idea of more passenger boats. There's some complex questions that would have to get answered here. But as far as the resolution goes, I wholeheartedly support it, and I'd be happy to work towards it.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, so Justin, was there anything else you wanted to say? Because you had your hand up earlier.
No, that was it.
Okay, very good. So you can put your hand down. And Doug and Kathy Ostrom, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, well, my question is
Doug,
a real
are
simple.
you unmuted?
I unmuted.
Okay.
Now, my question is a simple one. Does the crewing issue that we discussed for the ferries affect the passenger ferries? Would they have, in other words, would they have a crew to do what you're proposing to do, either from Kitsap County or from King County?
Yeah, we don't really know what the crewing situations are for both of those other systems. They do have to be Coast Guard certified crews, but so far I've rarely seen the King County PO boat canceled because of lack of crew. Occasionally it happens, but it's much less frequent than with the WSF boats. But they would have to find, as I understand their staffing, they probably have to run 2 shifts during the day, because I think now they're running a split shift. So people work 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. So that's 1 FTE for each position. If we ran 2 boats, the boats throughout the day, they need to have probably 2 shifts. So they'd have to have 2 FTEs for each position. So, but that's a problem. That's an implementation problem. I think the first thing is to goose them along to find the money and make the commitment to provide us this extra service, since the WSF boats are so screwed up because of the staffing and the age of the boats and their reliability.
Okay.
I do note that the money, I was thinking first that we could maybe get the money from WSF, but it was interesting when I read this article in the Kitsap paper about the Bremerton passenger boats, that they got the money not from the WSF. They got the money from some budget that the governor's office had. So the governor's office came up with the extra money. And it seems to me that we should make the same ask.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Is there anyone here in the Land Trust building who'd like to have a question or comment on this? Okay, then I would say it's time for a vote on this. And oops, Ellen Kritzman has her hand up. Ellen, go ahead. I'm going to work on setting up a poll for this.
Sorry to be last minute. But I think if Kitsap County has found the source of money in the federal highway system, then we need to pursue that. And not just be requesting in a general way, but see if we can follow the same route that they did, either by partnering with them or just taking that avenue ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know if it was federal money or not, but it was some money that came through the governor's office. So I don't know if that was federal transportation money or some other pool of.
Well, that's what the transcript that Diane posted said, but
I don't remember that. We'll take the money for whoever wants to kick it in.
Yeah, this is the first step in this process.
Yeah, I would say probably what we do once this passes is then the council can reach out to our county council person and our state legislators and ask them to take this up on our behalf. And maybe also Justin could connect with the FAC people on Kitsap County and see if they would help us work this through, because it could mean some extra money for the Southworth boat for it to make more runs into Colman Dock.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to run the poll, and I've set up this poll for the folks on Zoom to answer so the question is ferry resolution, yes or no? And I'm going to launch that. And
for or against it, Kathy?
I'm for it.
Okay, and so now here's another opportunity for us here at home to take a vote. Would you like to? Oh, okay, you're all right. Okay, so everybody, what's in favor of this resolution?
Everybody present voted for it.
And well, and only members can vote.
One person did not. Oh, they said only members can vote. So
yes, only members can vote on this resolution.
Oh, okay. So we can't.
What'd she say? Others can vote too? No. Okay.
Did I get 13? I didn't know. Close enough. And how many against this resolution? Anyone? Okay, no one against it. And I'm going to end the poll now. It's not taking long for people to decide on this. So we had on the Zoom, we had 25 voting yes and one person voting no. And here at the Lantris building, we had 13 people voting for it and no one voting against it. So
38 total.
38 total, and it passes with a resounding margin.
Thank you.
And we'll work out what these next steps are and how we're going to make this happen. Okay. All right, next on the agenda, new business, the post office situation. We're going to have, depending on how much time you've got, we're planning on having 10 minutes for community members, anybody who's here, to share their frustration about the situation with the post office. Up to 1 minute per person. If you use your less time, you can give the time on to somebody else, and we'll figure out how many people we can fit in 10 minutes. And if you want to share your story and you don't have time to share it verbally, you can type it up and put it in the chat. And so at least people will be able to read your story in the chat after this meeting. So please, anyone who wants to talk about this, so we're going to start it now, and I will need your help, Debbie, to help us with the timekeeping. It's 8:15. So at 8:25, we're going to move on to possible solutions for the post office situation. So please raise your hand if you'd like to speak about the problems in particular that you would like to share. Anyone? If we don't have many people doing that, we can spend more time on solutions, which would be nice. But please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Oops, I've got to get this. And, oh man, Nobody? Oops. No, I think. No, I'm not. Yeah, and that's. So if you just hang on just for a second, because we've stopped getting to see everybody here back in our big screen isn't working. So I got to get that set up again. Come on, let's go. And hopefully it's not causing a problem. Let's do this. There, okay. No, I'm not seeing anybody who wants to complain. All right, goody. Let's think about and talk about solutions. Oh boy, come on, baby.
Tony Mann has a hand up.
Oh, yes. Tony, please.
Hi, everyone. So I think my story, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think my story is fairly typical, is that I got a package delivered almost a month ago, and I got a notice saying, hey, it's been delivered to your house. I'm like, well, it's not here. Then when I actually followed the tracking, it said, oh, it's actually delivered to the post office. I'm like, okay. So I go over to the post office, say, can I get my package? They go, well, no, you don't have a slip. I go, but it's here, but you don't have a slip. And that was 3 weeks ago, and I never did get a slip. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get a slip. Does anyone gotten any slips that for packages they've been waiting for weeks? Okay. So they're just stuck in that back room then? Is that the situation?
Apparently.
Okay. Okay. It's not that fascinating a story. I just wanted to see if everyone else had a similar experience.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Yes.
Okay, David, would you like to kick it off with any solutions? Because you're the interim chair of the task force, and you've got your hand up. So, and Ellen.
Yeah, I saw that Ellen had her hand up too. Would you like to call Ellen first?
Yes, Ellen, I didn't realize we have a delay here. So Ellen, what would you like to share?
Well, it's also probably not at all new, but I think what I just heard was a little new to me, so maybe what I have to say is new to some people. I live on the North End. Last week of the 5 days that I should have had mail in my box, Monday through Saturday, I actually had delivery twice. It's coming either every other day or less than that. I don't get the market flyers. I don't get my beachcomber. Thankfully, I don't have medication coming, so that's not a problem. And this morning there was a package, and it was sitting at the bottom of the mailbox on the other side of the road. And it was there all night because the mail comes way after dark, maybe 8 p.m. or later. So it's just totally unsatisfactory mail delivery. And I know they don't have the people to do that. But we've got to find a solution. And I think since this is a United States service, it's not a local or county or state, that we need to get our senators involved, personally.
Okay, get the senators involved. Thank you. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Thank you. Come up and smack me. Yeah. Okay, we have someone here in the Land Trust building, and we'd like to have him introduce himself and please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Hansen, and I'm a former USPS Vashon employee and carrier here on the island. I worked from 2019 through 2022. I resigned in July of this year. I can give you some insight of what's going on. The problem is a nationwide problem. If you Google the Crested Butte, Colorado City Council, they just in August demanded a copy of the contract from USPS and Amazon, and under a FISA request. and it was denied by USPS. They refused to give a copy of the contract. This is a nationwide contract. It is an all or nothing contract with the Postal Service. They deliver all Amazon given to them, or they deliver none. So that's why our problem is not just our problem, it's a nationwide problem. The office right now, I have inside information. My current boss, her husband is a carrier. So they effectively have 3 full-time carriers. One of them resigned this week. They have effectively two carriers right now. They're bringing people on the island as fast as they can, as hard as they can. Just like the ferry employees, the Postal Service employees deserve our respect, and they deserve dignity for what they are doing. They're working very hard in an incredibly dysfunctional, damaged situation. The problem is the management of USPS. There is subterfuge here where they refuse to show a copy of the contract to other city councils that have requested it. Right now, what they're doing, they're bringing people on the island and they're hitting routes in a conga line fashion to try to get caught up on the mail. So if you haven't received mail, you'll be getting it at some point as they work each route one by one to try to get caught up. But what that tells us is they are not prioritizing delivering the mail. They are prioritizing delivering Amazon. Amazon cannot deliver to this island under the contract. If Amazon comes to the island to deliver to the island, they have to deliver all the packages to the island. That's why we can't have lockers on the island, because Amazon has to service the lockers. They have a different arrangement at the school, but because they can't service the lockers, they won't give us lockers here. I've talked to IGA, I've talked to Thriftway, I've talked to lots of people in the last 2 years about this. Because of the nationwide contract, they can't put the lockers here. The problem is the nationwide contract. The US Postal Service loses approximately $500 million a month. They are hemorrhaging money tremendously. They are dysfunctional. The problem is the management of USPS. You can come up with any idea you want here. The only solution is to get congressional insight into this, to get our representatives involved. One of the things I saw on there is higher wages for the local people. It's under a national collective bargaining contract. You have nothing you can do with that. Okay, so that's a moot point. The only thing we can do is get attention to this as fast as we can, because this is nationwide. If you do any Googling, you'll see this is happening outside of here. The Seattle district area is leading the nation in package thefts. We are in the shadow of the Amazon corporate headquarters, and this is what's going on here in their shadow. They need to be embarrassed by what's going on here, in my opinion, and that's all I'm going to say.
Well, I have an idea, and that would be to get back on and make some, we can make some.
I can't hear you.
Well,
I can't hear you.
Okay, you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to. Well, we'll call on you in a second. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Real. So we had someone else on the Zoom first, and then we'll come back. We'll switch back and forth. So was there someone on Zoom who wanted to say something? Otherwise, we have plenty of.
That was me, Diane, but I'll defer to Riel.
Okay, thank you, Riel. That was very important. Okay, so someone here, who is next? Who's next, please? You'll have to keep track because I can't.
Well, I'm on the agenda, so it's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So maybe this gentleman, unlike you, I used to work. I worked from 2015 to 2018.
Oh, yes. So could you mention, speaker and say that?
My name's Ryle Cummings. I worked at the office here on Vashon Island from 2015 to 2018. I joined the post office because I wanted to get a part-time job. You know, my part-time job turned into 55, 60 hours a week. And I will say that the Vashon post office is much better off 7 years ago than it is today. We had 7 routes on the island. All of them were delivered by regulars who had been anywhere on the route from 10 to 15 to 20 years. I believe only one of them commuted from off the island. And when I came in as a sub, you know, just coming in off the street they give you about a week of training and then throw you to the wolves basically. But back then we had regulars who could kind of take you under your wing. But the main thing I want to suggest, and you may disagree, but you may agree with this. Since our job in many ways is to deliver parcels, not mail, I think anything that we can do to help carriers deliver parcels easier is important. Now, someone mentioned that they hadn't get this, and what we're supposed to do is, let's say on a typical day back 6, 7 years ago, I would have maybe 37, 38 parcels to deliver. Yeah, I'm just saying, now that, you know, during the holidays, it was much different. No, maybe I'd have 60, okay? But, you know, it was a different world, as you know. If you can't deliver the parcel to the door, you're supposed to write it up. You have what they call a pink slip, and, you know, I'm sure you've all seen these, with the idea is the carrier couldn't get it to you for whatever reason. They leave the pink slip in your mailbox, and you come down and pick it up at the office. Now, I assume that's still the same procedure, right? Except for Amazon. Yeah, Amazon's supposed to go to the door. Okay, well, here's show and tell. I brought, you know, my suggestion, I wrote to Beachcomber a few weeks ago on this. When I was a carrier, I would say on this island, there are maybe 1 out of every 5 boxes of what I call an extra large rural mailbox, which can accommodate anything from this kind of parcel on down. Now, I can't tell you the percentage that would fit in mailboxes of a larger size when I was a carrier, but I would guess maybe a third of the parcels I had to deliver, maybe 40%, were of this size or less. So when someone had an extra large mailbox, it was great. You could just take it, put it in the mailbox with the other mail, and move on. You didn't have to worry about writing it up. You didn't have to worry about getting to the back of the truck and carrying it, you know, to the porch. And I will not defend people who drop parcels just willy-nilly. You know, that's not right. That's not in their training. That's not in the oath that they take to serve.
But that's normal on the island.
I'm saying, and I won't get all the reasons for it. I'm just saying it would have been very unusual for this to happen, let's say in 2015 or 2016, right? Yeah. But again, we didn't have an avalanche of these things, right, back then the way we do now. So anyway, the point is, what I'm suggesting is, if more people on this island would get what I call an extra large mailbox. Look, when I first moved to the island in 2006, I had just a small, regular size, what I think was probably a medium-sized mailbox. I had no idea that that could make a difference until I started carrying the mail on this island. So what I'm asking people to do on this island is, to me, it's a pretty simple solution, but it would help greatly. I think you would agree, is to get a mailbox that has dimensions of roughly 10 by 12 by 22 and a half. That'd be a minimum. 10 by 12, that's 10 inches in width, 12 inches in height, and 22 and a half or 22 inches or 16, whatever, in length. That's what's called an extra large rural mailbox. If you go on the USPS website, you'll find what they call next generation mailboxes. And next generation mailboxes, they define as being about 13 and a half inches wide by 12 inches tall by about 16 and a half inches deep. They also, if you go on the USPS website, you'll see that they refer you, if you want to purchase one by internet, they'll give you links to Home Depot, True Value, Walmart, Lowe's. All of these boxes are about 14 by 12 by 18. That's a large enough box to easily accommodate something like this. Now, if you see, I would warn you though, just one caveat, you may see a large mailbox. They may call it a large mailbox, but it may not have the dimensions that I've just mentioned. That's really, so if you're going to purchase a mailbox, please make sure of these dimensions. I guess that's my piece, except I just like to say that I would beat you, what you said. 95% of the people I worked with were dedicated to doing the best job they could. Absolutely. Absolutely. Believe me, if these people are not serving you, I'm sure that's true today. I'm sure that they're just facing a near impossible situation, but the simplest thing we can do right off the bat, any one of us, just get an extra large mailbox and put it at yet.
What I've noticed is that people are getting large.
Oh, but you have to speak, we have to, can't do that. We have to speak one at a time, in turn, and come up and speak.
Well, if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards.
Yeah. So I want to know if the folks on Zoom were able to hear what we all had to say. Yes, okay, good. And I put those dimensions in the chat that he talked about. And David Vogel is the interim chair of the Post Office Task Force, and we're taking notes on all of this. And we are looking for people to join the task force, by the way. So as we talk about these solutions, if there's a solution you'd like to work on, then take that one on and to say, I'm going to do that particular one. I'm going to follow that up and work on that particular solution. And you can let us know by, I'll send this around. People can sign up for a particular, sign up for the task force if they want to and put their name and contact information on there, or just better yet, put task force next to your name that you already signed up here. And the people who are on Zoom, you can make a note in the chat, or you can email me or David Vogel and send a message to him in the chat. But just let us know somehow that you'd like to be part of it, and we'll make sure that you're on. So,
Diane, this is Ben. Your camera seems to just kind of be pointing down at an empty chair at the moment.
Oh, that's so good. Yes, we have to fix that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. We'll move the camera.
And just let two hands up here, audience at this door.
See if I can get in it. Oh, I need to move it out. Yes, I set the camera up so that people could see Rial better when he was speaking. So that's what's going on there. Okay, there we go. Thank you for that, Ben. Okay, David, would you like to say something now?
Sure. I don't know that I have to reiterate the problems that people are facing. I've experienced all of them. I've had a pink slip left in my box, gone there and then been told, oh, we don't have it. And Amazon showed it as being delivered. I go to the post office, they go in the back, they look around, it's not there, or at least they tell me, but it was there in fact, and I got it a few days later. I've had packages damaged, destroyed, left in, you know, it's a mess. And there are a number of reasons for it, and you've heard a number of them, including Louis DeJoy. I mean, I think Donald Trump made a concerted effort to destroy the US Post Office, and he found the best person for the job. So, you know, I think that putting pressure on our elected federal officials to try to replace members of the postal committee who have the power to replace DeJoy would be a good first step. I wasn't aware that the national contract with Amazon required that Amazon make all the deliveries to Vashon. That's a surprise to me. I have been in touch. I've been in touch with David Rupert, who's the Western Regional the postal communities liaison for the US Post Office. He's the head of the Western region. So he's got some authority, and he told me, look, we have no authority to tell Amazon to deliver or to do anything. We're under a national contract, plus we can't raise wages because we have a national bargaining agreement. So I think we have to look at solutions that are feasible for ourselves. And as was just mentioned, an extra large rural mailbox is your best easy solution. I got one soon after I started having problems with the post office. I have been speaking to Ace Hardware and with Island Lumber, and both of them agreed to put these, put a promotional on extra large rural mailboxes as a result. So both Ace Hardware is selling what's normally $49.99 for $39.99, and Ace Hardware just Island Lumber just sent out an email to its customers that they will be doing a promotional on several different extra large rural mailboxes. And I believe there are also contractors on the island who will be able to help out by installing posts for these. And so if we do a concerted effort to get everyone with an extra large rural mailbox, that will be helpful. Now, getting in touch with the Postal Service was a whole lot easier than getting in touch with Amazon. And after I was on the phone for hours trying to get a hold of management, if they had a community relations person in Amazon, I was finally able to speak to someone in logistics, and the highest manager I could talk to in logistics, and she was working in the Philippines. So basically all contact with the outside world, Amazon has offshored it so that people who are in management at Amazon do not have to deal with the general public. But I do think that we need to get their attention. And so perhaps another media event and perhaps a boycott of Amazon that would get media attention would be able to get Amazon's attention as well. I'd like to start this task force. It's been slow in starting up, but you know, we have some time, not a whole lot of time before the holidays, but there's going to be time after that. And I would very much appreciate it if everyone who wants to be on a task force, let me know about it. I do think that the way to go may require congressional action. And let me defer to the other folks who have their hands raised.
So before we do that, I would like to have someone here in the room speak too, because we got to go back and forth. Yes, Wendy?
Yeah, I will say that out of frustration, a number of months ago, I did contact Jayapal's office, and she has an individual that is actually involved in postal issues. They send a form, you have to fill out the form, and they supposedly will follow through. She did get right back to me. I didn't fill out the form because at that point I was just didn't want to rock the boat kind of thing. But there is somebody in the office. I imagine Senator Murray's office and Camwell's office and stuff also have those types of folks. But maybe we ought to invite them to the island, and at least that individual. And number two, I also wanted to point out the Beachcomber has an excellent article today, and they talk about the fact that there is a special from ACE right now on the larger boxes. So thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy. Okay, back to the Zoom folks. Next person, I believe it might be Patrick. Are you, would you like to share?
Yeah, that was really insightful about the things going on the national level. Really good to hear, and very real issues. And I sympathize with the postal carriers, but I want to speak to the phase 2 of this problem, the criminal element that's going on. The postal workers, it seems, have been leaving the packages at the street because of a short staffing. The big boxes and the bigger mailboxes would help very much with the weather. But as it seems, there's vehicles that are following the postal trucks. We had a postman come into our driveway, ask if he could stay there for a few minutes after he had to get a signature for a package. And he said, there's somebody following me and he doesn't feel safe. This person was from Linwood. brought on island to run the route. And it seems very like a glaring problem with vehicles just trailing the postal vehicles. They drop the packages off, the vehicle picks them up. And it's a great symbiotic relationship for the criminals. And I just want to draw some attention to this. Is there anything we can do to address that issue that's going on?
Thank you, Patrick. There is a phone number one can call for that kind of thing. And let me just find it here.
I would rather get my mail once a month and get it at the door than have it left at the street every day and somebody else get it.
Yes. So here's a phone number. Mail theft should be reported to the Postal Inspection Service. It's unfortunate that Captain Volpe isn't here this evening at our meeting because she could have been asked about that. I'm going to put this phone number in the chat. Hang on a sec. I can't see it right now. Send the chat to everyone. Oh boy. There you go, everyone. Okay. The number is 877-876-2455. Now that brings up another solution, and that is having your mail delivered to the post office. Have a post office box. They're out of boxes. Okay. Okay, so now, thank you very much, Patrick. You can put your hand down now. I'm gonna ask for someone to speak here in the room to come on up and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Susan Jones, and I have a question for people in the know. I have started noticing that people are leaving large plastic lidded containers underneath their mailboxes, hoping that packages get delivered inside that. And I'm wondering how the post office feels about that.
There's no one from the post office here.
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes. We're gonna need to go back to the Zoom. So the next person up, Elizabeth Shepherd, looks like you're the next one up in the Zoom. And would you unmute yourself and speak?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that we did write a big article, this week about this, and it doesn't cover everything, but it does cover some of these issues and helps a little bit with understanding. I also talked to David Rupert, who is the communications specialist for the Western United States, and just trying to figure out the extent of the staffing issues. I was super glad to hear from Ray tonight because I just want to convey that to you, that it is quite dire there. And I also know that the postal employees there are working 7 days a week now. And that was confirmed, that I'd heard that around town and so forth, but it was confirmed today by David Rupert. And, I'm worried, I'm concerned about their emotional and physical health working those kinds of hours. It's not healthy situation at all. And the package situation is, just to enlighten it a little bit. I was told by David Rupert that it's 2,500 packages a day, every day, arriving on Vashon with this staff that Ray described. And I have heard around that there are more than that, but I only have word from David Rupert. So it is really such a dire situation. And that's what I hope to convey. And it's also affecting our businesses. This Vashon Island School District hasn't gotten mail, which is outlined in the article for many, not regularly since October. And, that's our island's largest employer. And the country store also has a mailbox service. And I interviewed Jan Staley, who works there, and that is also, they're not getting mail either. So they have mail delivered that then they put into their post boxes that they have there and packages, and it's just become this huge overwhelming chaos of her day now to have to deal with that and her employees. So it's really in terms of the mailboxes and the bigger mailboxes, I think it's a great idea. But this is the staffing problem. It's what's causing everything else. I mean, it's and giving, opportunity to thieves. And I don't know the numbers there. It would be really great to have some solid numbers of how many reports we have of people stealing things. And I haven't been able to get at that yet. I got a very confusing spreadsheet from the county that I have yet to figure out on that. But anyway, I just wanted to add in those things. And it is the problem in Crested Butte. This is a really big national problem, and it does, I believe, go back to Amazon and our island's reliance on Amazon and the convenience of it, and then the external cost that we are all paying now for that reliance.
Thank you very much, Liz. Okay, next, come on up. That's the camera up there, and here's the speaker. So I just talk into there, they can see you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Mary Marin, and my wife currently works at the post office. And I want to say agreement about going for congressional. I think that's huge. Doing what we can do by doing the mailboxes and getting enlarged ones. We have folks that work there have not had a regular day off in 15 months, at least 15 or 18 months. They're not being paid the full amount. And I know that there was a lot of mixed message about having press come out with King 5 about 4 weeks ago. But that did create a trigger for the district and the head district of the district to come out the next day with a little more of a help to come out, like the cavalry came out the next day. Did it solve the long-term problem? Absolutely not. But did it dig them out a little more? It did. So I think that there is an opportunity to still lean on King 5 to come out, maybe not highlight the theft as much, but highlight the systemic issues that are going on. When I came out and I appeared on King 5, I spoke to them for about 10 minutes, and she was definitely interested in coming back out. And speaking about the systemic issues that are going on with hiring. They knew 3 people were going to retire, and that those positions did not get filled, even though they knew plenty of time before they were going to retire. And so there's definitely things that we could put on pressure into the district and the regional people to be able to move this along and kind of come at it from the top to the bottom, but certainly coming at it from multiple areas. And then I'm just going to say, lastly, I do have a meal train going on out there. And for all of you that have done the meal train, thank you so much. But if you are interested in the meal train and you want to put it in the chat, or I can somehow get my name and number to Diane, then I will definitely, I can send the link to you so that you can do it. And it's just a means of offering me. My email is MARIN.
And at Maria Marin, okay.
Maria Marin, 213 at Gmail.
203?
213.
213.
Let me see if that's right.
Gmail.
If you're interested, and it doesn't need to be big meals. It could be small Gatorade bottles. It could be energy snacks. They're coming back 2 to 4 times in a day for their routes. And a lot of people who are coming off island don't know where to get food and don't realize until after the fact that everything's closed up and they don't have a place other than the Chevron to go to. So not that that's a bad place to go to, but there might be some other options. So that's all I have to say. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay. Really appreciate that. Okay, so back to Zoom. Who's next? It looks like we have Stephen Bailey from the Vashon Library. Stephen.
Thanks, Diane. Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Stephen Bailey. I'm a librarian with the King County Library System and one of the managers at the Vashon Library. I believe my colleague Marion Kamaski's in the audience, the Zoom audience as well. She's my manager colleague there. So the library cannot help, unfortunately, with package delivery on Vashon, but we were brainstorming how we might help with another issue that we've seen popping up, which is the long lines for people waiting to mail packages, to send packages off the island. So we brainstormed a few ideas, and what we came up with was setting up a mailing center at the library. What we've done is we've asked our friends of the library volunteer group if they would purchase a postal scale for us. And we've made available tape measures, packing tape. We also, of course, at the library have public computers and printers. So the idea would be that if you need to mail a package, you can swing by the library, print out the shipping label that you'll need and pay for it at USPS.com and have everything there you need to accomplish that. Then you can take your package that's already paid for and ready to go back over to the post office, skip the long line waiting to talk to the clerk and dropping in the outgoing box. It's just a small drop in the bucket, but hopefully it will, help alleviate some of the frustration islanders are feeling. I'm going to put a flyer that we've made in the chat. Feel free to spread the word. This is a free service we offer. Again, thanks to the Friends of the Vashon Library for their support.
Thank you very, very much, Stephen. As you can hear, the crowd really likes this. Okay, and now
I should know about this.
King 5 should know about this. Yes, I think that's a wonderful opportunity. So there's something else that the task force can do. If someone wants to take that on, contact King 5 about this. That would be great. Yeah. Okay, so now back to the folks here. Who would like to speak or comment or say anything? Come on up here, please. Well, okay, so here's, I'll clarify it for them so everybody can hear, because I've got the speaker up here. So we wanted some clarification. So if you want to package, if you want to send something, instead of waiting in line at the post office for a very long time with your box that doesn't have any postage on it, that's got to be weighed and so forth, you can bring your box and with its item to the library. And the people at the library will be able to help you weigh it to see how much it weighs and how big it is. So they can help you figure out how much postage is owed to put that in the package, in the mail to the post office. And then you can online, USPS, the website for the Postal Service, you can pay them. You can say, my package is this big, weighs this much, it's going here. How much do I owe? And the US Postal Service website will tell you how much it owes. And then you can print out at the library, you can then print the sticker and they'll help you put it on your package. So it's already paid for, the sticker's already on it, the label's already on it. And then you've got to bring it to them, but you don't have to stand in line.
Issue in mail off.
As big as you can get to the houses.
So the solution here is just to help the people who are standing for an hour in line at the post office. Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, now back to Zoom. Who would like to speak next on this? I would like to put a link in the Zoom. I have been collecting solutions for this, and one of them, and I'll just, I'm just going to quickly run through those that I've collected just so people can hear about them. Hire more employees, yes. Decrease the stress that Amazon packages put on our postal system. We've talked about that. Buy local. Whenever you can, and you can ask both ACE to order things for you. You can ask Thriftway to bring stuff in for you. A lot of companies you can ask, and then they'll come in a truck to them, and you'll get it. It won't go through the post office. You can contact Amazon. David's been working really hard on that. The Amazon hub's out of the question. Get action through our elected federal representatives. We've talked about that. Increase pay for local postal workers. There seems to be, even though there's a nationwide contract, there seems to be some possibility of getting local pay, and that would need to be worked on more. Meals and snacks for postal workers, we've talked about that. Large post boxes, we've talked about that. Preventing and reporting the mail theft. I'm not about how to prevent those people from following the trucks. That's got to be worked on. Get a box at the post office. Sorry, that's no longer possible, that they don't have any boxes available. Here's one, put up more reflective address signs. We're getting a lot of postal people coming from off island who don't know our routes and don't know where to deliver. And they're doing it at night. And they can't see. If you have an address that's not reflective, that's very, very hard for them. The fire department makes our emergency providers make those signs, make those reflective blue signs, and they only cost $25 each. And yet for another $5, you can get a post. And if we can all start putting those up, it will not only help the postal employees deliver to us, it will help the emergency services find our homes if something happens. So that's something we can all be doing too. Report the theft in the Vashon Library Mailing Center. So those are all things that we can all be working on. And I'm going to go back to Zoom here. Okay, and we have Georgianne. Would you like to say something? That's not
actually, it's Jim Garrison.
Jim, yes, Jim.
So you can do what the library is suggesting at your own house. You just have to get a scale. So if you go to USPS website and click on shipping, it will turn up a calculator and you just put in the weight of your package and it will print out the postage. So I'm not trying to bypass the library or anything, and I thank the library for their offer, but you can do this at home and then you just apply the postage to your package and drop it on a big box at the counter at the post office. You don't have to wait in line or anything. So, I mean, thank you, library, for your suggestion, but I think people can do this at home.
They can if they have something to weigh it in. Yes, a detailed scale. So yes, yeah, that's the other thing.
It's a very simple device.
Where do you buy them?
Oh, you can order them from Amazon.
There's oh my God.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay. Yes, of course. Thank you, Jim. Okay. All right. And great. Okay, now. So next, and I can't seem to get there. All right. Okay, so anyone else here want to say anything? Anyone on Zoom else want to? Oh, please.
This is really a question for the guys who worked for the Postal Service previously. What is required to deliver the mail? Like,
we have you got to hear. Everyone wants to hear you.
Yeah. Is there any option for a group of volunteers to be involved in like helping them catch up, or to hire a seasonal worker? Like what? Not that I'm aware of.
Yes, they are. Okay, they are planning a hiring event sometime soon. I think they're even covering the people from our article today too. So they are working on something to do a hiring event and things like that on the island. So that.
Okay, wait, hang on a second. They can't hear you. So I'm just going to repeat that. So the question was, can volunteers help? Can we get part-time help? And you had mentioned that they're planning a hiring event. The post office is planning but not volunteers. And because volunteers just can't walk into the post office. There's background checks and the rest. Touching our mail is a big deal, right? Okay. So did that answer your question?
One follow-up question.
Okay,
the follow-up question is funding the problem? Because if funding this problem, then that's a different issue. Like, can we not get enough workers because we don't have the funding, or we just can't get the workers because they're not interested?
Nobody wants to work for them. You can't keep people.
The post office can't keep people and they can't hire enough people. Is it partially because of the pay? It's too big of a question. Okay, we don't know, but it's clearly an issue. Okay. All right, back to Zoom. Robert, would you like to unmute yourself and share?
Sure. Yeah, I was just thinking back to historically, I grew up in Iowa and my grandparents had a farm and they used to get all of their packages delivered by Sears. They got a big Sears catalog and they would send in the order. And that got me to thinking that rural areas like ours, but throughout the US, are probably suffering the same issues and are, because they're Amazon and other delivery dependent. They can't just hop in their car and drive 150 miles to get a widget to fix their tractor with. So it may be politically that there's some potential to build a much broader geographic group of people who live throughout the US in rural areas, because I think the rural areas particularly are going to be suffering the same kind of things that we're suffering. Of course, the broader support that we can get from parts of the country that may be not so democratic, liberal like Vashon is, the better off we'll be in getting some attention to this problem at the Congress. There's a bunch of things that Congress needs to do. They don't fund the Postal Service, but they have a lot to say with who's the Postmaster General and who sits on the commission that manages the Postal Service.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. I'm going to have just one more. I'm just going to allow Elizabeth Shepard to speak, and then we're going to have to wrap it up because we're after 9 o'clock.
This is only going to be one really short. I forgot something that I found out from David Rupert, the postal communications person. They want to open, one of the things they said that they wanted to do was open a new contract post office in Burton. So he said to me when he said that, he said, like you had a couple of years ago. And I said, it wasn't a couple of years ago that we had a post office in Burton. So that is something that they are looking to do. And that is something that they have interest in. It's essentially what the country store is doing now, but they would be contracted with the post office. And, you know, I don't know who would want to do that, but it's something that the post office is looking for. Some sort of retail business who would want to take on that contract with them.
Yes, and it doesn't help with the employee situation, probably. But thank you very much. So thank you, everybody, for participating in this. I think we all got a lot of answers that we would have taken us a very long time to try to get to through Facebook chat and so forth. And that's one of the beauties and the values of coming together as a community and talking about these issues, because everybody brings some very valuable pieces of information to these important issues. And so I'm very, very grateful to all of you to have come and worked on this issue. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday, January 19th, 7 o'clock, same time, same place, on Zoom and here at the Land Trust building. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And you can remember, you can save the chat, and you can, we'll have the recording available. If you're on our mailing list, and this will be eventually on the website when we get there. But if you are on our mailing list, you will get the minutes with having a link to this video. Okay, very good. So thanks again, everybody. Meeting is adjourned. See you next month.